Namaste. Hello, I am Gloria Grace Rand, and today on Live, Love, Engage, I have a lovely guest who is coming to us from the other side of the world, because I live in the United States, and she is, where are you? You are in
Brisbane, Australia.
I was thinking, yes, it was
Yeah.
Australia. Yes. So we have Susan Kathleen with us today, and this is an amazing woman. One of the things she does is she hosts a podcast, which I was actually lucky enough to be a guest on early this year. And we'll probably talk about that a little bit later, but it's called Awaken Your Mind Magic. So go check it out on iTunes. But she is also a heart-centered healer and change agent and #1 best-selling author. And she has 40 years of experience in a whole range of holistic practices, including she's a Reiki Master, energetics healer. She's a transformational speaker, certified life mastery consultant, and hypnotherapist. And somehow you have time to find time to be able to do all these things. So it's quite amazing. But that's not all. She also works in the fields of quantum and metaphysics using the law of attraction and other methods in the quantum field. And she's also trained as an educator. So she's worked with everyone from the royal families to poorest children in African villages. And she also has a reflective writing program called Write to Get Right, which is designed to help those recovering from the trauma of abuse and heal, being able to heal through reflective journaling and meditation. And I think that's really cool. I definitely want to talk to you about that as well. But I thought one thing I wanted to start with today was that I know that the book that you wrote has an interesting title. It's called Who's Afraid of the Big Bad Wolf? And if any of you out there who have kids or even remember when you were a kid, you probably think, well, wait a minute, that sounds like a fairy tale. But this isn't a fairy tale, is it?
No, it certainly isn't, Grace. Thank you so much for having me on your show, and hello to everybody who's listening or watching. I appreciate it very much, and I love Gloria. She's an amazing woman. And of course, it's Women's Month, so we've
That's
got to
right.
praise each other, don't we?
Yes, that's right. Yes, we're recording
So,
this in March.
yeah, so
Wow.
leading on to this, Gloria, when you asked me about who's afraid of the big bad wolf, basically, it's healing the fear of the narcissistic werewolf through the magic power of the pen.
Mm.
And I wrote this book after my husband of 30 years died.
Mm.
It's going on for 6 years now.
Oh.
And one tends to get conditioned into a certain way. And many of us who call ourselves empaths, who basically are people who want to always fix people, heal people. We become what we basically are is people who facilitate other people.
Mm.
And they're usually the easiest target for a narcissist to get hooked up with,
Mm.
because we are very easy to gaslight, to pull the wool over our eyes because we believe that everybody's telling us the truth. And they get away with a lot of things.
Mm.
I'm not saying that my husband of 30 years was a bad man. However, he was a narcissist.
Mm.
And I also had many happy years in many ways with this person, and as did my 3 daughters. However, me personally, I was conditioned and made to do certain things and go through life at his beck and call.
Mm.
And many people will look at you and say to you after you sort of discovered all of this, they'll say, well, why didn't you leave? When you're in an abusive relationship, often you don't do that.
Mm.
Now, you will understand this as well, because we've spoken about these sort of things on my podcast with your situation in your life. It can be a father, a mother, a friend, a brother, a husband, a wife. And don't get me wrong, ladies, if you're listening out here, there are narcissistic women, and they are powerful at it, because not only are they narcissists, they have the charisma of a woman and the charm, and they're usually very beautiful. A narcissist is usually very good looking, very vain, and has the ability and the radar to suss out the people they can manipulate and use for their own self upgrading and up leveling in life. So when I wrote this book, I had actually recently qualified as a life mastery consultant with Mary Morrissey and Bob Proctor's training, 12 months training with the Brave Thinking Masters Institute. And it's a rigorous training to become the very best transformational coach and speaker you possibly can be. And it's a damn good training. It also sort of works in the fields of quantum and metaphysics. So we call that, most people on the sort of laymen and women call it the law of attraction. There's various different laws, but that's what most people understand from The Secret that everybody's read. And I started to be able to see myself and understand myself far better. And in order to be able to hold workshops, give public speaking engagements, etc., because I am a journalist, I trained many years ago to be one and a writer. I thought, oh, well, I'll just write a little self-help book using my signature story.
Right.
And I called it Who's Afraid of the Big Bad Wolf, after our little Red Riding Hood and the Big Bad Wolf, who gets lured into this wonderful place and consequently ends up in a cage and doesn't have a very good time. Anyway, that is basically what happens to a person who has been manipulated by a narcissist. And when I wrote this book, it was meant to be a giveaway to people who came to my workshops. And much to my surprise, it became a bestseller. And at the time when I actually was doing my research and writing about it, I couldn't really find very much about what a narcissist and empath was. Oh yeah, Dr. Google was my friend and all the other stuff, but I'd also basically been journaling all my life, and I started to look through my journals and I started to read through those as well and understand myself better. And consequently, I realized that I'd had, or in 30 years of free therapy. Guess what I was doing? I was journaling. And often what happens is I mean, I've studied NLP and things like that as well, but it's your mind and you sort of working through your hand and writing down thoughts. None of my entries in my journals were malicious or nasty or anything like that. What they were seeking and putting down times and places and things like that. And going back through these journals, I was able to discover why at one stage in my life I thought I had early stage Alzheimer's.
Oh my goodness.
And things like that. And the reason why is because my husband was actually feeding me the date rape drug.
Oh my gosh.
In the
Thanks.
evening, he would come very kindly and bring me a glass of wine for my sundowner. And in that glass of wine was the date rape drug. So if anybody's actually studied that, you must understand that you just don't remember anything.
Oh, wow.
And I'd wake up in the mornings we were sleeping in separate bedrooms at that time, that stage, because he basically told me that he just needed to have his own space. And he was a big snorer as well, so I was quite relieved. And when you've been married for 30 years, I think most women or men sort of think, well, why don't we have two rooms and get on with each other in the kitchen, dining room, and wherever else you happen to be, and visit each other if you want to. Anyway, I'd wake up in the morning and think, how did I get here?
Wow. That's
And what I
scary.
realized after he died, he had these two cell phones, mobile phones, we call them in the UK and here in Aussie. Um, and after he died, I'd actually thought, well, he was an agricultural consultant, and I thought, well, I need to get hold of his clients to say he'd passed away. And he normally kept everything locked up under lock and key and all sorts of things, but these had been left there, obviously, for me to find after he died,
Mm.
because clearly he didn't want to tell me about himself before. And much to my shock, I discovered that he was a closet gay
Oh, wow.
and that he had many, many lovers. And what
Mm.
he was doing is he was bringing them into our home, and men. And of course, I didn't know. I was asleep. But
Mm.
this-
Wow.
and it was all revealed in a lot of correspondence in these phones, because of course it was connected up to
Mm.
they were connected up to emails and things like that I didn't know existed. And being the person I am, and as an empath, I was never really suspicious about anything. I just thought he was a bit odd sometimes. So that was a shock to my system.
Yeah.
And I realized when I was going through all of these diaries and everything, that what had been keeping me sane was my. So once I'd actually regrouped and realized that life moves on, and stopped the pity party and all the other stuff that we do go through, because
Mm-hmm.
we do when we've been
Oh,
abused or anything
yeah.
like that. And I thought, well, let's put a little program together that's going to help people.
Mm.
And it can be children or adults. That's really just 5 different little modules that shows them just what I was doing.
Mm.
And it's a no-brainer. So that's basically what that little program is. It's called Right to Get Right.
Mm.
And it's associated with the book that I wrote.
Okay.
And I've had many people who've actually come back to me and sent me emails, or some people have even written cards, much to my interest, because most people don't anymore. Kind of like getting those, don't you, Gloria?
Oh, yes. It's so lovely.
And basically there, what happened was they were actually saying, thank you so much, because now I understand who I am.
Mm.
They've now, they now call these sort of people emotional vampires and predators and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And in this modern day and age, we get many people who point a finger if they've got a broken relationship, or somebody's done something bad to them, and they call this person a narcissist. No, you should not be doing that, because it's actually a clinical
Mm.
um, issue with a person, just like being a psychopath or any of those sort of people are. They really are genuinely not very well, and many of them have had something very traumatic happen to them
Mm.
in their lives, especially as children.
Mm.
So that's basically what the book's about.
Mm.
It's basically that, and really through mindfulness, reflection, and meditation, plus the journaling or the reflective writing,
Mm-hmm.
you can self-heal. Oh, obviously, if you really have to, and you need to go to a therapist or a counselor or something like that, absolutely. I'm not saying that only these things will work, but they did for
Right.
me.
Mm-hmm.
That's it in a nutshell.
Well, that's awesome. And you covered a lot of things, because I was going to ask you, a little bit about to describe, um, you know, I guess maybe how to be able to spot narcissistic behavior. But I think you kind of touched on it a little bit. I think it's really, but maybe just give another example. Maybe even if you've worked with other clients, maybe who's experienced
Yeah,
that.
absolutely. So basically, a true individual with that, it's known as NPD, narcissistic personality disorder.
Mm.
with a well-calculated, practiced, and they have put this mask on of deception. They manipulate their unsuspecting target victims into their lairs, just like a wolf does, where they play their total mind-bending games, and they are lies. They have anger. They a lot of attention seeking. They have huge power control, and they have this obsessive self-image with and they have total lack of empathy for the person that they slowly but surely erode into submission. And uh, some of the traits are, which I kind of found with early days with my husband, I find it kind of cute. You know, he was always fastidious about how he looked. And if we went out socially, early days, I had to look extremely glamorous. As you're going through when they start to utilize and use you for their self-empowerment, you start to believe that you're not as good as they are. Very often, even if you're a really good career woman or man, you basically put your career or your creativity on the back burner, and you become manipulated into uplifting them in your stead. They will basically tell you that something has happened that you have done that you haven't done, and they tell you this so often that you actually think, well, I must have done it. That's where I say there were times when I thought I had early stage dementia, because I've worked in the field of dementia, full dementia with clients, and because of that, I started seeing those traits in me, and it was scary.
Oh yeah, I can imagine.
And I mean, I'd even say to him, "Oh, I think I've got early stage Alzheimer's." He'd say, "Yeah, you definitely do." So you start really believing that you are not enough.
Yeah, that's so sad, because
Um,
we have a lot of that, even just naturally, or a lot of times just the way we grow up, and then to have this other person just kind of heap that on top of it, it's a bad recipe for
it is
sure.
a very bad recipe. And when we talk about this, I mean, I've had people come to me and say, I, I'm just not, I'm not beautiful, or I'm not handsome. And you can see, I mean, this is the surface sort of thing, but it's
Sure.
how you feel inside as well. You
Yeah.
start to feel very as if you're just not this nice person. And you're not. You're a great person. You can, and my clients, I can see that they are. And they've been browbeaten into believing that they really are not worth anything. And what also happens is a really manipulative narcissist will say to you, if you leave me, I will kill, I will see to it that people that you love die, or I will see to it that they never speak to you again. And they can actually go in, even with family members, and make the family members believe that you have done something and that you are truly not worthwhile having them in the family. So often when people do escape a relationship like this, and that can be with a boss as well, it's not just, it's not just a couple, or it's not, it can be with anybody who has the ability and authority over you, or thinks they have authority over you.
Yeah.
So very often when you do that, you become too afraid to leave, no matter how intelligent you are.
Yeah, absolutely. Because especially if you want to be able to protect the people that you love, and if someone is threatening them, then you're going to do
Absolutely.
whatever you can to keep them safe, even if it's at your expense. So,
Absolutely. And that's what empaths do, because they protect the people they love before they protect themselves.
mm,
And when a lot of people, when they've managed to break away from these sort of relationships, I mean, I broke away from the relationship because my husband died.
yeah.
I don't know what would have happened if I stayed on with him.
Mm-hmm.
It wouldn't have been a very good conclusion, because we'd got to the stage there where he really made me feel that I was totally inadequate in many, many ways. So when they do break away, if they do,
Mm-hmm.
and they start onto the road of self-healing and discovery, they start to discover a strength in themselves when they acknowledge that they have been an enabler or a facilitator,
Mm-hmm.
and that they have to change who they are, because none of us can fix other people.
That's true. Yeah,
We
absolutely. It
can only
starts with
fix
ourselves.
ourselves. Yeah,
Yeah.
we have to fix ourselves. And even fixing, I mean, it's not about that. It's about learning self-love.
Mm,
And
yes.
when you've sort of grown up very often with your own childhood issues,
Mm-hmm.
and or past life regression, where there's maybe you had a brilliant childhood this life, but in past life regression, you
Mm-hmm.
discover that some ancestor in your upline, who's maybe been dead a couple of centuries, has had all of these sort of things, and you start discovering these things, because I do timeline therapy. You discover these things, you break that epigenetic tie from then,
Mm-hmm.
and it then actually frees you to being the person that you truly are, and the person that you're meant to be on this earth, because we are quintessentially all energy. We come
Absolutely.
from the quantum field,
Yep.
which we call God.
Mm-hmm.
um, Please, I don't want people who are extremely religious to think that I'm being anti-religious. I believe that there is a Godfather, not the Godfather, the
Yeah.
person. Oh, there are a few of those too. They're
Yeah.
probably narcissists. But basically, when we start to understand our true worth,
Mm-hmm.
and that we're not just these humans that have been plonked here on earth, that we are incredible spirit that are all interconnected with this incredible God force of energy, the quantum field. We we are these incredible spirits that have the right to, and we've chosen through a pre-written agreement before we're born, that we are going to go to Earth to go and experience being a human.
Mm.
And in that time, we can have this awakening. And that's why my podcast is called Awaken Your Mind Magic. So you have this awakening where it's like a light bulb moment. I always think of the first time I heard that was Oprah Winfrey, when she said, "Oh, this light bulb moment." I thought, that's cool. That's a good one. When you have that epiphany and you understand and say to yourself, "Oh my gosh, the person that matters the most is me. I'm interconnected, intergalactic with this incredible field of
Mhm.
energy. I have this ability to be whoever I want to be. I can choose to reflect back on anything that's been bad in the past, and
Right.
then I'm tied to that and I can't change it. Or as of now, I I will be the person I'm born to be, and you can become you can live your dream into reality.
Mm. Absolutely.
And that is what the quantum field is about as well, is understanding the power of being able to create anything. And that, when we talk about the law of attraction, I mean, for you for instance, you you what happens when a person like you says, "Oh, well, that's not working for me. I'm just going to sit down and be sorry for myself." You didn't do that. You went ahead and you became this incredibly well-known TV presenter. You did all these amazing things. How did you get there? That was your power of your mind.
Mm.
You chose to do it.
Yeah.
And you also opened yourself up to understanding that nothing happens by coincidence. The people you meet, when you open up the portals of your mind, the windmills of your mind, when you open those up and you start saying, there's a reason why I'm standing in this queue at the airport, when we get to do that.
Yeah.
And I'm chatting to the person behind me, and we're just talking about something. We're going in the same direction, and you get to chat to that person. Maybe they're sitting, and suddenly they're sitting next to you on the airplane, and you think, okay. A lot of people will just brush that aside.
Right.
In the course of that conversation, you could have a job opening or an interview or a financial, because I know I'm talking to the financial boss here, a financial something that's going to happen. You could have been sitting next to Mr. Bitcoin himself and early days in 1998, and he said, would you like to buy some Bitcoin for 1 cent? And you would have said, yeah, I would buy 10. And now you're a multi-millionaire. Nothing happens by chance.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Nothing.
That's true. Well, tell me, tell me a little bit about what actually got you interested in all of this, quantum field and the law of attraction, and even just some of the other, things that you do, like hypnotherapy and Reiki. What set you on this path?
I've been gathering certificates, pieces of paper. I could wallpaper my house for more than 20 years through curiosity. So one of my therapies was using the ability to learn. So I'd wrap myself up into something. And in 20 plus years ago, we had internet, but it wasn't as easy to get hold of. We had what was called correspondent courses. People used to look down their noses at those, where a great big file and all sorts of stuff would arrive in the post office, and you had to send off your assignments. And eventually you'd either have to go to the university or college or whatever, and sit an exam or 2 or 3 or 4 and get your qualification. So it was many, many years ago that I became very interested in homeopathy. I come from a long line of healers and herbalists and people like that. So I studied homeopathy for 3 years under a really well-known person in Africa, actually. And then I went on to learning about the Bach flower remedies. And then I loved that. And I worked in, and early days, actually it's more than 20 years ago now, I studied NLP, neuralistic programming. And associated with that in those days was something called Touch for Health and integrated kinesiology. So I studied those as well. And that was from Switzerland. And I still like that. And again, because I'm a touchy-feely person, I thought that was cool. That works. And I started working and understanding the field of meridians in bodies and how they work. And that got me into wanting to know more about healing. Because again, I come from a long line of healers and wise woman. And that's going back generations. So I wanted to know more about the power of healing, power of touch, but the power of healing. And I was introduced to shamanism by a Yoruba priestess. She was Cuban and lived between Cuba and Spain. She was quite a little character, tiny, diminutive woman with a great big white turban to make herself taller. And I sort of, she pushed up at my door one day, and funny little lady, and I said hello, and I'm used to that sort of thing going on, and she said, I'd like to be able to see you and talk to you. And she said, I've been sent to you. And I said, by who? She said, no. She said, you wouldn't understand, but here I am. And so I used to go to her once a week. I had to sneak away to do it because my husband absolutely didn't like me to have anything to do with those sort of people.
Mm.
And uh, mainly because I think he thought that he'd lose power over me.
Mm.
And so it was my little sneaky thing, and I'd go and learn from her, and she taught me about herbs and stuff like that. Now, I was already into that sort of thing, but I
Right.
found her more fascinating than anything. I mean, she'd go and bathe in the moonlight with no clothes on
Oh,
and
wow.
kill a chicken and prance and dance around with chicken. Don't worry, everybody, I don't do that. I'm not into killing chickens and prancing and dancing around the moonlight. And even if I was, I wouldn't tell you. Um, but it sort of got into that. And then, Gloria, one thing led to another. I studied fairy shamanism, and I worked on the power of, because I'm also an artist, so I am an art therapy teacher,
Mm.
and that works in with healing as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I've worked with people who have special needs and need that sort of outlet because they can't really speak about anything, but they can paint it.
Mm.
And when you start to have the understanding of what they're doing, you can get into their head a little bit, which of course, that doesn't sound really good, but it's just understand them more and be able to speak to them more.
Mm.
And then with distance healing, so the quantum energetics healing, I can do that at a distance. I can do it from here to you or wherever, which is very useful during the COVID period.
Absolutely. Yeah. For sure. Very helpful because
Yeah, that's how I got into it, and it's ongoing. I mean, I don't stop learning, and even more so now because I have the freedom of being myself.
Mhm.
That doesn't say that I, I wouldn't love to have a wonderful romantic uh, partner who brings me flowers and chocolates and stuff. Except that wouldn't do very well at the moment because I put on a lot of weight during COVID. I have to stay on my own without the chocolates.
I love it. Um, you're such an amazing person, and you do so many different things. So, we mentioned that. Well, obviously, you're a writer and you're a healer, and you do podcasts, especially.
Yes.
Um, Anyone watching this on YouTube will see you've got an impressive microphone set up there,
I have.
so those who are listening won't be able to hear that, but hopefully it'll come through when in the recording. What and this might be even hard to say, but do you have a favorite of the different things that you do, or what really lights you up the most?
I absolutely love transformational coaching.
Mm.
And that's when I coach a person into living their dream into reality.
Mm.
And it sounds kind of woo-woo, but it's not. It's so, some of the most successful people in the world, like Richard Branson, they do that. They dream build. Um, I love doing that. And more than anything, I love being the storyteller that I was born to be.
Mm.
And many wise women or shaman are storytellers. And that for me is like virtual storytelling. And it's a very good question that you've just asked me because I've been doing a lot of deep speaking
Mm.
in the last month
Mm.
and meditation and stuff.
Yeah.
And I've been saying, okay, so I can do all of these things, but why do all of these things at this stage when I can be master of one or maybe two?
Mhm.
So my wish at the moment, I'm just coming to the last interview of my first season with Awaken Your Mind Magic, which is, it's a magic number for me. It's number 55.
Oh,
So
lovely.
yeah, so that's 55 weeks I've got under my belt. And they have too. So I thought that over and I thought, where do I go from here?
Mm.
Because I love telling stories. I adore children, but I love grown-ups and as well. People are good people. Everybody is,
Yeah.
usually. Some of them are a little bit different, but they've all got a spark of something that's precious. And I thought, let me look at season 2
Mm.
and what am I going to do? And somebody said to me recently, Susan, you are such an incredible virtual storyteller. Tell stories
Mm.
and bring some people in, and that's what Awaken Your Mind Magic is about. Is up until now, I've interviewed the most incredible people. Some people are unknown people. Other
Mhm.
people are amazing actors, actresses, bestseller authors, whatever, people like you as well. I mean, you're an incredible woman with a lot of achievements. You got not just a black belt, you got brown belt in what you do. uh, and then I thought to myself, well, I'll listen to what people say, and I'm very keen to go forward with a magical show,
Mm.
and not obviously not pulling rabbits out of a hat.
No.
Mind you, I wouldn't mind being able to do that. Maybe I should go and learn how to do that too. Nah, I'll leave it to other ones, David Copperfield and people like that.
There you go.
But being able to say to people, what's your magic?
Mm.
And getting a 10-minute sprint from them on their magic, and then
Mm.
telling a story around that person's magic and asking them permission if it's okay that I do that. And then connecting it all up and putting it out there as a podcast. I think it'd be kind of fun, kind of
Mm.
different.
I
With
think it
a
sounds
lot of
yeah, it sounds
yeah,
lovely. So, and you
yeah.
know what? All you don't know how it's going to go until you try.
You
And
never do.
exactly. So you just see what happens, but I think it sounds like it would be marvelous.
Yeah.
I look
And I
forward
want to be able to splash some more paint on canvas, Gloria.
to
I have not really painted in a long time.
it.
Um, again, because I used to sell my work all over the world. And my husband had me, and he was an incredible artist himself, a
Mm.
really good one.
Mm.
But he made me believe that I wasn't as good as him,
Mm.
which is fair enough. He had his style and I had mine. And so I used to promote him and market him
Mm.
instead. That's, again, sort of was my choice.
Yeah.
You know, I can't put point a finger at anybody. And this is something that people must understand when they're in a relationship. Whatever you want to be able to throw at the other person and blame them for, understand that you had that choice.
Yeah.
Even if you have been mentally abused or anything else, you've got to find that strength within yourself to say, is this really working for me?
Hmm.
And practicing self-love.
Yeah.
So yes, I'd like to be able to splash some paint on canvas and have fun. That's what I'd like to do. And write another book.
Well, it sounds good. And
Yeah,
I think that's lovely advice for anyone really out there who is wanting to do something, is to just start do something, and everybody has different talents and different things that they're interested in. It doesn't necessarily have to be artistic, but
yeah,
whatever you enjoy doing, spend more time doing that. And I think if anything this last year has shown us is that life especially can be short, and we need to spend it doing things that we love to do. And
absolutely.
yeah, so
You know, Gloria, that is such a good thing to say, because anybody listening who has been indoctrinated into believing, okay, I've got to go into this corporate world 9 to 5 every day, or I have to do this and this. Why not sit back and say to yourself, what is it that I truly loved doing when I was a child?
Mm.
What did I really love to do? I mean, look at you. You went from what you went to train to do when you realized that copywriting and things like that were what you loved. And it got you satisfaction.
Mm-hmm.
And it's about building up that confidence to say, okay, what is the coincidence of getting a letter in the post every sort of now and then about the writing school or something like that?
Right.
And why am I not looking at this? They might, it's not just junk mail. It's coming to me for a reason. Let me open it up and see. And I say this to everyone: is there's a writer and a creative, incredible force within each one of us.
Mm-hmm.
And we are here for that power of the pen or a paintbrush, or to become a musician. I mean, I had a client who was close to 80. She'd been a lawyer all her life, and very successfully, but it made her sick.
Oh,
And I would think taking on all of those sort of things would make you sick, just like a dentist. I mean, they have the highest suicide rate in the world. And I'm not surprised, looking down those mouths and all the bad chi that might come out of a person's
yeah.
mouth, bad teeth and stuff. I'd also want to go and sort of think about not wanting to stay around looking in mouths anymore. But getting back to the lawyer, I digress. How my brain works. Sorry, Gloria.
That's okay.
But going back, when I'd actually finished with her dream and we started creating it, because I mean, I do vision boards and things like that with people
Yeah.
as well, and especially kids, because it's a perfect thing for them. But when she really got down to the nitty gritty, obviously she was 80, so she wasn't being a lawyer anymore. A lot of people were asking her for free advice. So, but she went to college and she trained to be a fashion designer.
Mm. That's amazing. That's
She'd
so
she'd
awesome.
loved drawing from when she was little, but she was told by her dad that she couldn't do that. She had a brain and she had to go and do something else.
Mm.
Her last years were happy years
Yeah,
because
that's awesome.
she did what she loved.
Yeah.
We should all be doing what we love.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know sometimes people, though, they sometimes feel, well, I can't make a living at it. Well, you know what? That's okay. Maybe you just do that, what you love, as a part-time thing or as a hobby, but still spend time doing that, because it's going to fill you up. It's going to give you joy. And then who knows, if you spend enough time doing that, then maybe there will come into your life a way that you actually could make money doing that. Because
Totally.
when you are aligned and you are happy, then you're going to attract more of that. And you know that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
People have said to me, well, how is it you sort of, how do you stay sane after what we've read, or these sort of things? It's not about, as I say, you're allowed to have a pity party.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
You're allowed
sure.
to be
Yeah.
sorry
For
for
a little
yourself
while.
for a little while,
Yeah.
until you say to yourself, okay, suck it up, princess. It's time to actually get on and do something else.
Yeah.
Because you're not helping yourself. And I say this to anybody in extreme depression, because I work with people with anxiety and depression all the time, is you stay in that pity party, you keep that depression. It
Yeah.
becomes your friend.
Yeah.
And
That's
it's not a good friend to have. It's a
no.
toxic friend. You don't want toxic people in your life, including this.
Yeah. That's true. Yeah. I mean, because it can make you physically sick, not
It does.
just emotionally sick if you stay in that
Yeah.
long enough.
Well, it makes you suicidal as well. I mean, I work with suicide prevention and people like that, and yeah, it does. It gets you to the stage where you think, well, there's no point in being around. Let me go.
Mm. And that's a waste,
It
because,
is a waste,
we
because
are,
you've written this contract before you born. You
yeah,
got to get on with it and get your stuff yeah, get your stuff together.
Absolutely. You are such a delight to talk with. I really enjoy having a conversation with you.
I love chatting to you too.
Thank you. So if someone wants to learn more about you and what you do and maybe perhaps they're called to work with you in some fashion, what's the best place for people to find out about you?
The easiest place is to go to my website. So it's www.susankathleen.com. And you can catch me there. There's an easy way to get hold of me. You can even actually sign up for a 45 free call with me via Zoom. So I do that. And it's not always a coaching call. And I make it very clear to everybody. I do not like to say to somebody, right now, after this, without me, you're not going to survive.
Yeah.
I like somebody to go away and say, well, that was a good chat. And I have a choice. If I want to work with Susan, that's what I'm going to do.
Right.
And if not, friend me on Facebook.
There you go.
I'm pretty good at saying hello to people who do that.
Awesome. I love it. Well, make sure also that if you're, at least they can go back in and listen to the other episodes from season 1 of Awaken Your Mind Magic. And so you're on iTunes and probably other podcast platforms, I imagine.
Yeah, I'm on all of the podcast platforms, thanks to my very wise manager who does it all for me. He does that stuff. I just do the talking and find the wonderful people, and they find me too.
Well, that's good. Yeah, absolutely. Well, and that's the engineers are wonderful people who do stuff, but yours is an important job because you've got to talk. You're the face.
Oh,
you are the face of it.
And the research. You know about that, Gloria. We've got to know who we're talking to. I mean,
absolutely.
I think that's another thing that people don't realize is that when you podcasting, it's not just a case of saying, hey, come and chat on my podcast. I mean, you and I both know with any form of speaking, when you speak to somebody else, you want to put them in their best light and you want to know about them so that you can ask the relevant questions. So yeah, everybody, we spend about an hour or two looking at what it is that you do so that we can put you out there and make you amazing, like Gloria's just done for me.
Yes, absolutely. And you have done for me. So
bless you, darling.
It's just a love fest we've got going on here today.
Maybe we get a little love party going on here. Why not?
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, goodness. All right. Well, you know what? I have enjoyed this so much, and I thank you so much for being here. And I will have the link to your website in the show notes. And I have a brilliant person who puts together my show notes now, which is awesome. I don't have to do that anymore.
Yeah. That's time consuming.
Yes, it is. Yes. And I love what he does. He does a great job. Joel, here's a shout out for you.
Yay, Joel.
You can't have me smile.
I'm going to shout out for Shane then.
There you go.
Hey, Shane.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thank you again for being here. And thank you, the listeners and subscribers and everyone also watching on YouTube. I appreciate you so much. And until next time, as always, I urge you to go out and live fully, love deeply, and engage authentically.